Hit it like you're angry at it. There you go. There you go. Right, yeah.
Good evening and welcome to the Audit and Administration Committee meeting this evening on October the 23rd. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Legislator Birmingham, will you please lead us?
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Legislator Birmingham.
Here.
Legislator Crowley.
Present.
Chairwoman Sage.
Present. Item number 3 is acceptance of minutes for the June 23rd, 2025 meeting. So noted. Item number 4 is correspondence from our county auditor. A is our sales tax report. I think last time Commissioner Carlin came, and we have with us our Deputy Commissioner of Finance, Sheila Barrett, if you'd like to join us. But we're just talking about, well,
There's a couple of.
he said the quarterly sales tax was probably coming in September, and that our sales tax report would get caught up, and it looks like it has.
Yes.
September, it looks like our sales tax intake was $9,133,480, which is $737,509 over 2024. It looks like we are on track this year with our sales tax. Any questions or comments about the sales tax report?
Looking good.
Okay, we'll move on to our board and revenue. Our board and revenue is what we take in from outside inmates from other law enforcement agencies that we house here in Putnam County, and they pay us some rent. Questions or comments from anyone in the legislature or from the public? We'll move on to our transfer revenue report. These are all FYIs. Do you have any questions? We'll move on to the contingency, subcontingency report. This is an FYI as well. Any questions or comments from anyone?
We just have one item we're going to consider tonight. Yep. Later on, the 18B.
Yes,
Yep.
the 18B, right. We do have one item for tonight. All right, moving on to number 5 is our correspondence from the Commissioner of Finance. And as I stated earlier, we have our deputy here tonight, Sheila Barrett. 5A is our overtime and temporary report. It's also an FYI. Any questions or comments from any legislator? Anyone from the public? All right, moving on to agenda item 5B. This is an approval for a budgetary amendment, 25A092, for the Health Department. This is utilizing our Adolescent Tobacco Use Prevention Act Fund, the ATUPA funds, in the amount of $8,075. We'll be increasing revenues and using that for promotional and miscellaneous items. Those are uses for training and instruction, and those are approved uses. So any questions or comments from the committee? Anyone from the legislature or the public? All right, I'll make a motion to approve agenda item 5A, B, excuse me. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Agenda item 5C is an approval for a budgetary amendment for the Indigent Legal Services. This is what we're just talking about, 18B. Do you want to just
Yes,
embellish?
absolutely. We know that we're always running short these days on these accounts, and we need this to continue going on, and we're probably going to need more on.
And this is what we have, or required
Yes.
to pay for the
Yeah, we have to
indigent
pay for-
legal services?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have $100,000 coming out of contingency. We have $100,000 of state aid. And these are all going for indigent legal services.
Yes.
Any questions or comments from the committee?
How much do we usually get from the state for indigent services? Is it standard per year? Is it like per
We get a
services?
piece of what we're spending.
Spending, okay. So it's a percentage. So if we're not using it, we're not getting as much
Right, but I mean, there's no way we're getting it
Right.
dollar for dollar. I
No.
know we're getting a piece of it because they raised it, I want to say 2 years ago,
Okay,
as to what we had to pay, and we get a piece of that back.
okay. All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone from the public? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve agenda item 5C.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5D is an approval for a budgetary amendment, 25A097. This is for purchasing. This is a payment received for lease equity. Lease equity, this is when we're selling vehicles that have been leased, and we're trading them in, and we're taking the proceeds and putting them into a budget line called minor sales. That about right? Any questions or comments from the committee? Anyone from the legislature or the public? I'll make a motion to approve agenda item 5D. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5E is an approval for a budgetary amendment. This is for emergency services. This is the Next Generation 911 grant funding. This is in the New York State Aid 911 grant in the amount of $1,515,197. This is grant funding that's well needed within the emergency operations of our county. Any questions or comments on this item? This is a lease, there's not a lease, what am I saying? Grant. Any questions or comments from any other legislator or the public? I will make a motion to approve agenda item 5E. All in, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, agenda item 5F. This is an approval for a budgetary amendment, 25A099. This is for the Sheriff's Office. This is the Governor's Traffic Safety Committee Award to be used for Police Traffic Services Program. This is in the amount of $24,000. This is a Buckle Up grant that's being used for overtime, other equipment, training, and education, and the Buckle Up grant overtime lines. This is grant being used to fund these programs within our sheriff's departments. Any questions or comments from the committee? Anyone from the legislature? Anyone from the public? All right, I'll make a motion to approve agenda item 5F.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, agenda item 6 is an approval for a fund transfer for social services. This is to reappropriate funds to correct budget lines for agreement with the sheriff's office. So it looks like we're correcting the contract lines to be moved into a chargeback contract line. And this is in the amount of $26,240. And this is simply accounting, just putting in the right lines. Any questions or comments from the committee? Anyone from the legislature? Anyone from the public?
It's just a quick question. This is for DSS, but it's coming out of, the reason we're doing a fund transfer, is that what it is? Or
It's mental health, yeah?
mental health, but we're taking it out of the sheriff's?
No.
No, vice versa.
It's
Oh,
just
vice-
housekeeping,
Okay.
right? It's going from Department 4310 into Department 4210, from regular contracts into chargebacks,
Okay.
and then from contracts into miscellaneous.
The $800 amount, it says sheriff's office. I was just curious about that.
Oh, that's the
Yeah.
reappropriate funds to correct budget line for agreement with sheriff's office, but it resides in the mental health
Okay.
department.
Is that for the,
Perfect.
oh, sorry.
I understand that.
Yeah, I just said that's, I saw that, and I saw the
The
mental
note
health
says-
heading, heading here, so I was
Is this-
just curious.
For the CRT related, yes? Those, because I think that's, yeah, no, co-response team. Because that, yes, under that contract, exactly,
I think so.
yes.
We're getting a yes.
Anyone else? Anyone from the public? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve agenda item number 6. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Dan, sorry.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to agenda item number 7. This is for a signature. This is an approval for a fund transfer for the sheriff's office. This is to purchase ballistic helmets. in the amount of $10,909.80. So this is coming out of our Homeland Security Rescue Equipment and moving it into Homeland Security Rescue Equipment. Just moving from line to line. Is that correct?
Yes, it's just housekeeping because they're separately less than 5,000 each.
Oh, I
so
see.
You've got to take it from one line to another.
Yeah,
line.
it's got to go from, right, because Legislator Crowley.
And this is also because I believe they're expired helmets, so there is an expiration date on them, just like their vests, so they're to
Vests.
replace the old ones,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken.
Any other questions or comments? Anyone from the public? Make a motion to approve for signature, agenda item number 7. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, 8 is an approval for a semi-annual mortgage tax report, April 1st. This is our quarterly semi-annual mortgage tax report. This is where the county takes the money from the taxpayer to the mortgage taxes that goes back to the towns, and this is the amounts that the county is sending back to each of the towns.
On this point, I would like to abstain on this, only because 3 of the municipalities there are represented by members of my firm. That would be the Village Cold Spring, the Town of Kent, and the Village of Brewster. I know this is more ministerial than anything else, or we have to do it, but
Right.
I'm probably being more cautious than I need to be, but just going to state that. It's a routine thing we do every year,
Every quarter.
every quarter.
Yeah, this is for the 3rd quarter. Any questions or comments on the mortgage tax apportionment of payments for the 3rd quarter? I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor? Oh, roll call. We'll do a roll call vote.
Legislator Birmingham,
1 abstention for the reasons stated.
Legislator Crowley,
Yes.
Chairwoman Sage.
Yes. Okay, number 9 is a discussion regarding Article 7 of our charter amendment regarding the annual operating budget. This was requested by Legislator Birmingham. And I will give the floor to Legislator Birmingham so he can lead us through this and explain his,
Sure. And this is just on for discussion this evening.
Yeah.
I don't anticipate
Right.
anything, well, we can't pass it, but essentially, this came up during our recent review of the tentative budget, and there was a question and a confusion as to whether or not the budget book that we get has 3 columns, or a lot of columns, but the 3 that we pay attention to quite a bit are the requested column, which is the column where all of the department heads submit their budget to the county exec. The second column is the tentative budget, which is the tentative budget that the county executive submits to us. And, of course, the third column would be the adopted budget, which, of course, for the 2026 year, that's all blank right now because we haven't approved it. None of this, of course, will apply, if passed, to the 2026 budget because we're beyond a lot of these benchmarks. But essentially, it mimics and pretty much copies the procedure that we lay out every year as a simple resolution in our decentralized budget format. And essentially, just to, you've got the last page there is the red line, even though it's black and white, but the red line shows what the proposals are. Essentially, Article 7, Section A, Paragraph 2 would be amended to add when the department heads submit their budget to the Commissioner of Finance with that requested number, we would also get a copy of that as well. I know we do have access to the budget books. This county executive and all the others have been very transparent in allowing us to review them. That there's no question about that. But this would put it into the charter and would have the force of law as opposed to just a resolution. So that's Paragraph 2 of Section A. Paragraph 3 of Section A, similarly, talks about the next step, where the submission of estimates and appropriation requests on or before the 15th day of August each year, such earlier date as the county executive may prescribe. The head of each administrative unit of county government or authorized agency shall furnish to the Commissioner of Finance with a copy to the legislature an estimate of revenues and expenditures for his or her respective unit or authorized agency. I misspoke when I said earlier. This is the one I was just describing. The first one is with respect to the notification coming from the county executive to the department head. So we would get a copy of that. So that's paragraphs 2 and 3. And the last one there, it's all underlined, as you can see. This would be adding a new paragraph to Article 7, Section A, and it reads as follows. The tentative budget shall display, without modification by the county executive, under a column denoted requested, the estimate of personnel expenditures of any administrative unit of county government or authorized agency submitted pursuant to Section A3, which is the most recent section we just talked about of this article. To the extent the tentative budget decreases any estimate of personnel expenditure, keep them only personnel expenditure this talks about. The tentative budget shall contain an explanation as to the reason for such decrease. To the extent the tentative budget contains any cost of living increases, grade reclassifications, or other personnel expenditure variations from the then current operating budget, such changes shall be set forth as a separate line items in the respective department, unit, or authorized agency portion of the tentative budget. That's a mouthful. And
Yeah.
let me just break it down a little
It's
bit.
very specific.
It is, and this is based on some of the feedback we got from Commissioner Carlin earlier this month. A couple of things. We're all used to seeing the budget book. When we get the budget book, particularly in the personnel lines, we have everybody's, the personnel number, the name, the date of hire, their current salary, their requested salary, the tentative salary, and of course the blank line is the approved budget, which of course we don't see until after it's approved, obviously. Let's start at the last part of this paragraph. What we're talking about, what I'm trying to talk about here is that Bill Carlin made, I think, a very valid point that he tried to include the COLAs in each management salary. And that was included in the tentative budget's proposal as part of that number. What this would suggest would be to add lines at the bottom of that page with a corresponding personnel number, like let's say I'm 1007 as a legislator, District 7. Right now I'm making, 47,000. If there was a COLA for my line, there would be a similar line down below that's bolded, if you recall how we see it. That's 1007, whatever the COLA, 3.5%, whatever the COLA is, but it would be a separate number. Because Bill and I got into a friendly, but a little bit back and forth last week on that, as far as, let's break out the COLAs. I have no disagreement with the 3.5% COLAs. I just think having this here would spell it out more clearly so that the confusion, and Bill was trying to be helpful, he was saying, and I believe him. He was saying he included in some of the lines the COLA increase without going fully with the requested number. And to me, it just kind of was unclear at best. So what this does with respect to the COLA is that it breaks it out for the management as a separate line, and each person by line. That's the last part of that paragraph. The second to last part of that paragraph is already in our decentralized budget resolution we pass, but again, this only pertains to personnel. To the extent the tentative budget decreases any such estimate of personnel expenditure, the tentative budget shall contain an explanation for such decrease. Again, I just think that's helpful information for us. We were presented with I think it was the Department of DSS, where they had changed, the number had changed to go down from from the requested budget to the tentative budget. And the commissioner gave us, through an email, gave us a very reasoned explanation for that. But it was after the fact. And it would have been great to see that reasoned explanation from the administration when we get the tentative budget. So that's what the second to last part of that does. And the first part really just says that the requested budget is the requested budget. When a department head submits a requested budget, whatever's in that book, whatever's in that proposal from the department head, I think it's helpful to us as a good tool to see what that number is. And again, I hate to say it, 12 years ago when it was on and before, that's the way it was always done. And maybe things have changed since then, and maybe for good reason. I'm not, throwing stones or anything, but I know as a legislator, it's a good tool for me to have to see, okay, Highway Department requested, backhoes, and the request number was, $40,000. The tentative budget came in at $20,000. Okay, that tells me he probably ordered two and he only got one. I want to know why that is, not only with respect to equipment and contracts even, but certainly also personnel. So that's what the Section 3 of this local law would do. And Sections 1 and 2 I already talked about. We have plenty of time with this. Obviously, if we did consider moving forward with this in any fashion, it wouldn't take effect until the 2027 budget. So I just wanted to throw it out there, get some discussion, and I certainly want to hear back from the Commissioner of Finance in his department, and certainly Sheila, and certainly the administration too. I just think it's a good tool for me anyway, as a legislator, to see those things in there. And that's it. That's why I proposed it.
And can I ask Sheila to weigh in on this? I mean, is this, I feel like, well, I'll let you start. I feel like, is it not already done that way when somebody requested $40,000 for backhoes and they're only allowed $20,000?
I don't necessarily have all the detail when you're getting those personnel sheets, because that's what we're talking about.
Right.
That piece,
Personnel sheets,
right?
yeah, and then the,
So I'm thinking about structurally how we would accommodate that, right? So if we're going to say, because I'm almost thinking that maybe as part of it, we would have notes on the bottom of it that would,
Okay.
one in parentheses would be COLAs, and two would be the vacation was vacated and we're going to we're going to offer less money, right? We used to cut the salaries by 10% for management, and then somebody left and then we were looking to rehire, which is feasible.
Yeah. It would be like a reclass, like, how we have grade reclassifications at the bottom of
Right,
the...
so now you're going to have sheets that are.
it's going to be just a longer.
Well, not necessarily double. We're only talking about management with the COLAs, because the generally speaking, there's very few reclassifications in our budget, maybe a dozen each year. And, any raises that might come about because of union raises, we would just assume, we can't, there's no discretion with respect to the unions, it's in the contract. So we're really only talking about the management of each department, because that's where we really have discretion as opposed to the contract.
Okay,
Yeah.
so on the bottom where we would
Right.
do, say, for CSEA, reclassified from account.
Which we have there now.
Senior account
Yep.
clerk,
Yep.
we would do that for each line of management.
In those years where we have a COLA, yeah,
Right,
right,
okay, which we have in the last,
yeah,
for so many years.
yeah.
Okay.
Legislator Crowley.
Legislator, through the chair, Legislator Birmingham, I'm looking at these two documents. They're exactly the same.
No, if you take it, it's
I was
different.
looking, I would like to see a red line, I
Oh,
mean,
it is.
because I understand this, but
They are the same.
they are the same.
They are the same.
So I'd
yes.
like to see exactly what you've changed, because it's
Okay.
not,
I can tell you that.
it's-
I can.
But I think that should be shown, I'm sorry? No, it's okay.
It is shown, the way you can read it, it's in black and white, that's the only problem, is the underlined portions are additions
Right.
to what was there before.
But it says finance, and both of them say, with a
Yes.
copy of the county legislature. So
Yes.
it's,
I can tell you what happened there.
What did it change there?
We were given, yes, what we were given is a clean version of my proposal, which is the
Oh,
one
I
on your
see.
left.
I would have
And
liked
what's-
to see the original
Sure, of
versus.
course, yeah.
So I think when we're looking at these documents, it's important to see what we currently have.
Sure.
Versus what you're changing, and that, I would like to see that. So in order for me, I think that's the proper backup that we should have when we're looking at, especially a law change, during budget season, we're very busy. So it's much easier to have all the information in front of us, especially when we want to sit and go over it and not have to, add more work to everybody else. I think,
So what he's adding and taking out is just the
I want to see what I'm saying is I want to.
And everything else
We
is
should have the
original.
backup of both I just think that's
And we can
appropriate.
arrange for that at
Yeah,
the next
sure, that's
meeting,
fine.
correct?
I just think it's appropriate to have both in front of us and to have the appropriate backup. I see what you're adding, and I can see that, but I would like to see the original language
Okay. That's
as
fair-
well.
that's fair enough.
And be able to look at it and see that it makes sense. It's a local law that we would be changing, and.
It's a charter, it's a higher charter.
Yeah, it's a charter, yeah. So I just think that that's important moving forward whenever we look at something that is a charter change, that we have the original and the new to both reflect on and digest and see what discussion is needed for it to move forward if it does move forward.
Fair point, fair point.
Any other legislator? Legislator Elner?
Yeah, I'm concentrating here at the final paragraph, Section 3, Article 7, Paragraph 5. Dan, I'd like to see you insert where right now it says shall contain an explanation. If I recall, the current language says shall contain a detailed explanation. I'd like to have become and add the word detailed to explanation. And the other thing is, just throw this out, as opposed to tentative budget decreases, how about just a tentative budget variance or change? Because there is the possibility it could be increased as opposed to decreased. So this way you always have
Fair
the
point.
information.
Anyone else? Let's just discussion. Sure, Legislator Montgomery.
Do we publish the decentralized budget request anywhere in the press? I'm just thinking, the reason I ask that is, every year it feels like a mad scramble. I know the county executive notifies any agency or contracted agency that they currently contract with ahead of time or once we adopt it. Notice goes out to those outside organizations possibly who were funded in the past. There's always been an issue with me, like, we're just funding those outside agencies that we funded in the past.
Right.
How is that fair, right? This county executive has done a great job at opening it up to other outside agencies and not just funding the same old, but a lot of times we have to scramble and gather information and figure out who those outside agencies are, maybe in our district. So there's nothing that goes in the paper.
So on October 1st, after the budget is presented to the legislature, we put it on our website under finance so that anybody can see our budget report, which is requested and tentative. Under the county exec section, that's where all the outside agencies are. And that's where somebody could see where they are. And I believe they've been notifying the outside agencies. I think they've
Well,
been
those
kept very
that-
much in the loop.
Yeah, those that
This
have been,
season?
the argument I've had over the past couple of years has been, how is anybody else to know? Like, hey, no outside agencies in my district were ever funded.
Right.
And they never would be because nobody notified them, right, that funding.
Well, it was done very differently back then,
It
too,
was
right?
too, yes.
Very differently.
So, I appreciate that we're getting ahead of it, and it opens up a lot more opportunities. And, new agencies always pop up that can provide a great service to the county. So I have to be on top of it too when the time,
Right.
when the clock starts ticking for the budget.
Gotcha. So we do post it every year. We go over to IT and we send them a copy of it and they put it up. We make sure that it's done after you guys get it, but immediately after it, next day.
And just along those lines, and something that I think would be interesting is something Sue Serino has done in Dutchess County, is her budget season, or like, say, for 2027, they would have a theme for their outside agencies. So, I mean, I don't know if we're ever going to stop funding the SPCA and the Humane Society and all these organizations who do great work here in Putnam County on behalf of the county, but she'll say this is the year of food insecurity, and we really need to focus on food insecurity because that's a big problem in Putnam County. And then she'll say, are there food insecurity not-for-profits or agencies that could provide a great service for Putnam County? And then those are the agencies that will get the most consideration. Maybe the next year would be, we really need to concentrate on the arts in Putnam County because, we have a great need here and our population really needs, and so it's just kind of so that it's not always the same agencies that are always getting the focus. Next year, might not be the arts. Next year, we're going to, whatever it is. Animal cruelty. We had a big case of animal cruelty, and, we need to invest more. And that way, it's not always the same ones that are getting year after year after year, but they're actually focused on a problem, something that we foresee in the following year in Putnam County. And, I mean, I think that's something that would be
It's a great idea.
a great idea, because all of a sudden, it just becomes, all right, everybody's going to come in, all right, everybody gets something, without focusing it on what is actually happening in our community. So I think that's, just like to put that out there. Maybe we'll try that next year or sometime in the future. We'll discuss it. Legislator
Thank
Crowley.
you. Thank you, Chairman. To piggyback off of what you just said, I think that's a great idea. I think it opens up a vast majority of doors. And we did have that opportunity, I think, 2 years ago during the budget season when we had it was brought to us with the competitive grant program. where
Yeah, but
we
this
would
wouldn't be
have-
grant. This would just be like contracts
Well-
with outside agencies.
Yeah,
I don't know
we have
about
to be
grants.
careful.
Well,
That's slippery slope, I think.
Okay.
Anyway,
so-
I'm sorry,
well,
let you continue.
no, Thank
I'm
you.
sorry.
So we can change the naming of it, but what I'm saying is it was along the same idea where it wasn't really picking winners and losers. It was trying to invite new opportunity to come in. And a theme is a wonderful thing because it does open up the door for new agencies, but we did have that opportunity at one point, so we could have done it, and we could have expanded on it with an idea of something of that nature. And I think we still have that opportunity to do so, and using the resources that we already pay into, like the newspapers that we pay to advertise and the social media that we use now, it's something that we should bring into discussion, and it will bring more people to the table and open up more doors to be able to support more agencies and vastly support them, not have to do the same ones every year. And, also it'll give resources to the public as well. If we're seeing new faces coming in and out of here, we're giving everybody a chance, a little bit of equity. And I would like to see that.
Yeah. And also, you're not continually funding the same people all the time. Like, it's not like a government program that just never ends and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Legislator Montgomery.
I love the ideas, and maybe they can be in addition to. I don't mind funding the same agencies over and over again, as long as they are providing a valuable service to the county. Let's face it, we were funding some agencies that weren't producing anything, or, we funded them and there was no program there, or we funded them and we didn't know what they were about. We did that, and, I think this year, those agencies that came to us, they proved to us, they told us what they were generating in sales tax revenue, how many students they were reaching, what the program was for. Is it going to increase their ADA compliance? And so I don't necessarily think we should stop funding agencies that have been funded over and over again. There's a reason we fund them, they provide a service to the county. We're going off on a tangent.
I know. But it's fresh in our minds as something we're talking about. We're talking about our budget process. So any other questions or comments from the public or anyone else? So I think it's a,
Great, yeah. What I'll do is I'll incorporate certainly the presentation issue that Aaron raised and the point that Greg raised, and I'll have something for the next meeting.
Thank you.
and this is a discussion, so we will move on to our Guardrail report. This is an FYI. Please review it. This is our, pardon me?
The Bruno document.
Yes, and this is also confidential, so we'll make sure we'll shred that one. All right, I would like to make a motion to add other business to the agenda.
Second.
Agenda item 11A and 11B.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Agenda item 11A is to amend our roads and machinery operating budget accounts. Sheila, did you want to
Yeah.
discuss this one?
So basically, yeah, we're getting the revenue with insurance recovery,
Okay,
and we're recognizing that. So we're increasing the revenues and increasing the expenses, housekeeping, who's doing that check.
okay,
More Matt Bruno.
yeah. Any questions or comments on this item? Anyone from the legislature, anyone from the public? Okay, so I will make a motion to approve agenda item 11A. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Agenda item 11B, this also has a letter of necessity attached. This is for DPW.
Correct.
This is to correct budget lines.
Correct.
Sheila, did you want to?
Right, basically it was a typo. And we're just correcting it to get it to the right funds, because of course when you make a typo, it's got to be across funds. So
Yeah.
this entry is basically to clean up what needed to be cleaned up to get it to where the department intended it to go.
Having one typo in a 30,000-line budget is
Yeah, that's-
reprehensible. You should be ashamed of yourself.
I really am.
Any other questions or comments on this item? Anyone from the public? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve agenda item 11B.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Sheila.
Okay, and with that, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
How you doing, Sheila? Good?
Okay.
Good evening and welcome to the October 23rd meeting of the Rules Committee. I'd ask everybody to stand for the pledge, please. Greg, would you lead us? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Legislator Elner,
Here.
Legislator Goulden. Present. Chairman Birmingham.
Here. This is going to be a one-item agenda tonight, folks. It is on for discussion-approval, but I don't have any intention of it being approved tonight. I think we do need some discussion on this, not only among ourselves, but among our council as well as the administration. But as you can see, this is couched as an amendment to the charter to provide for the provision of majority counsel to the majority of the county legislature and counsel to the minority of the county legislature. As we all know, we're in the middle of our budget season, and next year's legislative budget has two new lines in it, one for majority counsel, one for minority counsel. Our chair and our minority counsel put that budget together, and what this is an attempt to do is simply to regularize the process for appointing those councils. And again, it's not premature, I wouldn't think, because it wouldn't take effect until January 1st. So we do have a lot of time to talk about it and hopefully get it passed this year. I would like to see it passed this year because the budget line starts January 1st, 2026. And essentially just what it does is the operative clauses here are, you can read the recitals there, pretty much gives some findings and determinations, which everything here is subject to input, but this is just a starting point. But anyway, it goes ahead and creates a new provision of law in the county charter, Article 2, which is the legislative portion of the charter, talks about the counsel to the majority of the county legislature and counsel to the minority of the county legislature. There is established a counsel to the majority of the county legislature and a counsel to the minority of the county legislature. Paragraph B, the members of the county legislature enrolled in the political party representing the largest number of legislators shall, on the first day of January 2026, or as soon as thereafter practicable, and every 3 years thereafter, appoint counsel to the majority of the county legislature. Such counsel to the majority of the council legislature shall be chosen by the affirmative vote of the majority of such majority members of the legislature. So that's paragraph B. Paragraph C is the members of the county legislature enrolled in the political party representing the next largest number of county legislators shall, on the first day of January 2026, or as soon as thereafter practicable, and every 3 years thereafter, appoint a counsel to the minority of the county legislature. Such minority counsel shall be chosen by the affirmative vote of the majority of such minority members of the county legislature. So that's essentially A, B, and C. It in the charter puts the office there, and B and C simply just talk about the process of appointing that. Paragraph D goes into the powers and duties of each counsel to the majority and counsel to the minority of the legislature. And essentially these 8 items, almost verbatim, and I'll put a little asterisk next to that, essentially these 8 duties were taken from our most recent RFP. I think it was 2017, Diane, was it? 2017. And in the RFP, back when we used to contract for legislative counsel, these were the chores and the duties set forth in there. I'm sounding like a broken record, I apologize. We always had, when I was here, an employee of the legislature as county counsel to the legislature. There was only one, and I understand after I left, we went out to contract for various reasons. And what this does and the budget does is brings it back into the legislature. And I'll just go over a couple of these, or all 8 of them. The powers and duties of each counsel to the majority shall have the following powers, including overseeing the preparation of local laws, ordinances, acts, and resolutions upon receipt of a request, research problems related to the function, powers, and duties of the county legislature and its employees, prepare written reports on the breadth and depth of the function, powers, and duties of the county legislature and its employees, attend all legislative meetings, meaning full legislative meetings, and all special meetings, and as requested, committee meetings. Provide advice to members of the county legislature on rules of order and other procedural questions as they may arise or as requested during legislative meetings. 6, recommend procedures in connection with the implementation of policy for the county legislature. Number 7, recommend and coordinate appropriate ways to communicate initiatives and policy of the county legislature through media and other mechanisms. And number 8, kind of a catch-all, which I think we might need to amend, and Heather and I were talking about that earlier this week. 8, perform a variety of related activities as required. And I'll get back to that. But those are, in this portion here, in this draft, the duties. And then E is kind of goes without saying, at the time of their appointments and throughout their time in office, the counsel to the majority and counsel to the minority shall be duly admitted to practice law in the state of New York. Kind of goes without saying, but it's just worth putting in there. So those are thoughts. And I do want a robust discussion about this. I just want to give you some of my thoughts first after I read it. I'm of two minds. I'm not sure it has to be an amendment to the county charter as opposed to just putting it in our code. We can discuss that. And then also, the other thing I wanted to talk about is, and I know, Heather, you and I had talked about this. I'll cover both of these issues here. The way the county charter is written now with the Department of Law, and in particular the county attorney, it starts out as follows. I apologize. I thought I'd have it teed up. Bear with me. I want to get it right. Because we certainly don't want to take away any of the powers of the county attorney. I don't think the counsel to the legislature could ever do that. It's Article 8 in Section 802, County Attorney, Powers and Duties. And it starts out like this. Except as may otherwise be provided in this charter, the county attorney shall, with respect to county civil matters, and then it goes on. The first one is very, very clear. Be the sole legal advisor to the county and its administrative units, including its officers. What I've tried to do here, because I do want to pay respect to that, that is taken, was it 105 or 501 of the county law? 501 of the county law has similar but not exact language as this here. It talks about a county attorney in any county being the legal advisor as opposed to sole legal advisor. So this was made different. And the way I've tried to address it here is, first of all, I think the opening paragraph in this section talks about except as may otherwise be provided in this charter. So if we're making a change to the charter, providing for a legislative council, I think the way it's written now, this would satisfy that. And again, I'm speaking as a legislator, not as a lawyer. I'm not giving any legal advice tonight. I'm just giving you my thoughts as a legislator. And Section 1 starts out with, or I should say Section 2 of this local law, proposed local law, starts out with notwithstanding any other provision of law. So both of those, in my view, kind of dovetail into each other with the charter provisions saying except as provided otherwise in this charter, and then this local law saying notwithstanding any other provision of law. I think those two together kind of reconcile and fit like a puzzle for this to be appropriate. But the paragraph in the charter as it reads now goes on, not only is he sole legal advisor, but he's a sole legal advisor, and it qualifies it with respect to county civil matters. And I think, and I'd love, because I don't practice criminal law, I practice a very discrete area of law, so I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on any of this from a legal standpoint. But I'd like to, Heather, for you to look into, if you don't mind, does that mean strictly civil lawsuits? Like you and I had talked about this, and that's where we'll get back to paragraph 8. I don't envision this attorney in any way, or these attorneys in any way, going to court for the legislature. Those, except for that catch-all, which could be read different ways, they're all advisory, they're all recommendations. There's nothing that allows them or permits them to go out into a court atmosphere. So that's that. And getting to paragraph 8, I think I know where you're going. I think this might answer it. Paragraph 8, that catch-all, perform a variety of related activities as required. Heather and I had a good discussion earlier this week, and we both agreed that that could be a rather wide barn door for any number of horses to run through. And she's right. And that could, at some future date, I mean, we're all here in 2025, but 20 years from now, nobody will be familiar with the discussions and the intent, most likely, of what went on here. So I'm thinking perhaps, and again, all this is for discussion tonight, none of this is going to be moved out tonight, but for number 8, I would change that to say, within the restrictions of the county charter and county law, comma, perform a variety of related activities as required. That kind of is a broad restriction to that other catch-all. So I'm thinking that might, keep what I envision the legislative councils in that lane, and keep the county attorney's role pure and not infringe on his or at some future date his or her role. So anyway, I've talked a lot. Those are my thoughts. I'll first open it up to the committee members. You guys have any thoughts?
Yeah, I was just saying I'm looking here at 4.
And the duties?
Yeah, you said you were very selective in the meetings. You don't see it necessary that they attend all legislative meetings.
Well, all full legislative meetings and all special meetings and as requested committee meetings. We could change that. That's not a hill to die on, and from my viewpoint, but, that could change.
I'm just throwing that. And the other thing is, does this talks about the commencing the employment on January 26th.
January 1st, yeah.
January 1st, thank you. If for some reason both or either of these attorneys choose to leave, let's say they move, okay, do we have to have a provision in this section to hire the replacement attorney?
Well, they're appointed for a term. As you can see, the way it's written now is a
Yeah, but I'm
term.
saying somebody moves,
Right.
8 months into the term. I'm just asking the question, do we have to have a provision here, or is it covered? I guess I should ask.
What do you think?
I mean, I would like an opportunity to look into everything.
Sure.
I don't want to misadvise you. I mean, I would think that you would need a provision for what happens if someone leaves midterm. I think it's always better to be explicit rather than to go with
That's-
implicit things.
Okay.
I say that having had exactly 10 seconds notice to look into it.
That's-
But that I think is always preferable, because if something is silent, then it's subject to interpretation and argument, and better to not have to argue about it. We discussed a few other, sort of questions I had. I don't like to speak out of turn on something. I'd really like to look into this.
Well, that's what's brought it up, so it can be looked into,
Yes,
because this
there's
is
a lot
just a
of
question.
law, and so if the committee would like me to undertake sort of looking into this, perhaps with your latest draft, with some of these things that you're taking, I could then give some thought, and things that I can give you dispositive answers to, I will, and things that are open questions that maybe isn't clearly answered, I can pose the questions to you, and then perhaps that would help just inform your decision-making process on it.
Great. Yeah, Bill, go ahead.
Since the legislative attorney didn't write this, I think it's a good idea that she reviews it and
Sure, of
make the
course.
corrections that she feels warranted. Did you read this yet?
I looked at the initial draft, but it sounds like there's been some.
No, this hasn't changed.
Oh, it hasn't, then yes, I saw the initial draft, yes.
Any comments on the initial draft?
I wouldn't want to comment on it outside of executive session, because I believe it's giving you guys legal advice on it. But, I definitely have thoughts and questions and things, and I think I could easily do a memo if the committee would like that.
Sure, I wouldn't mind that. Would you guys mind that?
Yeah, that's
Great.
great. What was your thinking of putting affirmative vote on there and not a different word?
My thought there is, because I think, not in Putnam, but I think some other counties have their legislative council appointed by the chair. And particularly, now, there are other counties that have minority and majority councils, but in particular, the chair most likely will always be a member of the majority party. So my thought there was to have each minority and majority party pick their council, not by the chair, who could, if the chair of the Putnam County Legislature was a Republican, which it is, it would be unfair to the minority to not get the council of their choice. And so by the affirmative vote, I just meant the positive vote of the majority of each respective caucus or group party, yeah.
Okay, to the council, you think that's a good word to use, or should we use a different word?
I mean, I think that, I think there's always room for improvement and clarification, and I think that it can get confusing when it's the majority of the majority party, and we might be able to find a way to streamline it, but, I mean.
Conceptually, it's good.
We do get paid
Yeah.
by the word as lawyers, though, you do know that. don't you?
Yeah, exactly, I don't want a Monday morning quarterback,
No.
someone else's brain.
No pride in
And,
authorship here, seriously,
so
if you have any changes.
I'm happy to help assist with the drafting, to see if we can streamline things. I think that anytime we have an opportunity to use plain English, I'm a big fan of that. I feel that that makes the law accessible. As someone who didn't come from a legacy family of lawyers or anything like that, I know firsthand what it's like to not have any clue what I'm reading or what this means. I spent a lot of time with Black's Law Dictionary in my first year of law school. I lost hours of time looking things up to make sure I understood. So I'm a big fan of plain language. And so if we can make this, accessible to anybody who reads it, I think that's a great thing.
Great, perfect. I'll get you in a second. Any other committee?
Yeah.
Next.
Again, I don't know if it's appropriate for this section, but just reading this and what we've experienced in the past, I would like to see within the charter that should a conflict between the law department and/or county executive and/or the legislature exists, that the legislature has the right to hire an outside counsel of their choosing and not be subject to the determination of the county attorney's office.
Okay, that's not in this.
Okay,
legislation.
so that's,
not in
okay,
this legislation.
so we'll look at that separately. So that ends that quickly.
Aaron?
So I just want to get my insight. So you wrote this, Dan, correct?
I did.
And you didn't consult the county attorney before providing this tonight and give her a
No,
copy of it?
I did not.
I find it kind of funny that we have a county attorney, that we should go through the process to have her check these things before we're proposing a huge charter change, or adding a charter change. We always seem to do it kind of during budget season. I don't know why, which I think is the wrong time of year to do it, when we have the most stress going on to make sure everything's right for the people we represent. But if we're not using the county attorney we have to pass this through, then why do we need to add 2 more attorneys?
Well, no,
I'm speaking through the chair, please.
I take the view, and I've always taken the view for the 9 years I've been here, I'm a legislator, I legislate.
Right.
And I view this as an integral part of my job as a legislator, to put ideas out there, to talk about it in the public. I think it's healthy. I'm not in any way demanding that our county attorney's office give us input tonight. And I'll be honest, I think sometimes, and not with respect to anybody currently in the county government, but I have seen proposals killed deep in the bureaucracy of county government because it didn't get the light of day. And I've always been a big proponent of, let's get it out there, let's talk about it. Nothing's being passed tonight, nothing's being asked to pass tonight, but cold experience has shown me how some very good proposals have died in the deep state of the county government. And again, that's not during current times, but I have seen that in the past. So perhaps this is a bit of a learn from my scars type of thing.
Are we okay to?
Sure, of course, yeah, go ahead.
And I appreciate that. I think when it comes to, things of this magnitude, it is appropriate. I've written my own legislation, and then I brought it to the county law department, sent it out to, It's been sent out to all of you guys to see it. When I brought it to them, they've told me the legalities on what I've written, maybe amendments that should be made, then it's brought to the floor for discussion. So I'm just wondering why that process wasn't used so that we could work out the legalities before it was kind of brought here and then discuss it. And I understand past, but that was a whole different time, right? That was also a big reason why, caucus was, you're a big man that you don't like to caucus because it was a different time. There's a lot of things going on. So I think,
still love
I know, well aware. But I just would like to say that we do have a law department, and if we're not using them, then I think, to me, it's kind of hypocritical to ask for 2 attorneys when we're not even using them, and they're here, and they're being paid. So I would like to see that before, I get it, what happened in the past, can be killed, but I haven't seen that with this county attorneys
Nor have I.
group. They've actually been very pushy as far as being transparent. I know I sent something over one time when Conrad was still there, and they said, nope, you absolutely have to send it to the entire body, make sure the entire body sees it, and I will respond back to the entire body to make sure it's fully transparent. And before we bring it to the public in concept, I think it's a great idea to have our own ideas and write legislation, but again, to hire 2 new attorneys when we're not even using the ones we have is kind of hypocritical to me, and I don't really get it. And also with the allocations that were given, there are 3 elections this year. We don't know what the dynamic's going to be. We don't know if it's still going to be 8 with the majority, so the allocations may be different. There might be.
Are you up for re-election, Nancy?
I mean, no, but there are 3 Democrats that are running, and there are 3 Republicans that are running. So right now, it's 50,000 for the minority party, and 90,000, and it's 8-1. And if those ratios change, the balance could also change on what is deserving for the legislators. So I'm just pointing out a few things that I looked at, and I thought maybe, from the abstract and just being realistic. I mean, I don't know that you can allocate funds based on an 8-1 right now when the election hasn't happened.
Well, we already did.
If I could, I just want to, I'll be brief, and then Nancy. Just to respond to a couple of things, all good points, by the way. I think it just might be a difference in style. I prefer to get it out in the public because, believe it or not, sometimes the public might be wiser than we are when it comes to some of these things. I'm being facetious, of course, they often are. And so if there was something in this that 9 of us may have missed, and even in its nascent, embryonic stage, but somebody in the public says, wait, did you think of this? I want their input before I start wasting the time of a county attorney. Now, no one is saying, I'm certainly not saying that the county attorney shouldn't review this. As I said, I've had healthy conversations with her before this was even put on the agenda, and then thereafter. So I think some may call it hypocrisy, and some may call it just, I want to get the public involved as soon as possible, because I think that brings in another level of insulation from having, whether they're good or bad ideas, be shunted to the side. With respect to the good point you made about the allocations to the amount in there for each majority, minority council, there, and I explained this from my vantage point only, earlier this week when I said those are not to exceed numbers. I think as a legislature, no matter what the makeup is next year, whether it stays the same or changes, I think, again, another public, healthy discussion about whether those not to exceed numbers should be reached is in order. And I would defer to the minority to make their own decision about that. I think it would be, and again, that minority could be 1 or 4 people, as you said. I would defer to the minority to give us advice as to what they think they need. And the majority, mathematically, would I be in the, yeah, it's impossible for the majority to flip this year, but as being a member of the majority, I would want us to have a discussion, again, in public, as to what that not to exceed number should be, whether it's the ones that are in the budget right now or lower. So good point you made there. I don't necessarily disagree with them. I just think it's a difference in style, and that's fine. Nancy, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I don't even know where to begin, but, and a lot of my questions have been answered already, and I've reread it again and came up with my own answers again. So things I didn't understand and that are in my notes, I now understand. But I understand that the intent of this charter change, and I know it would benefit me personally and, the people I serve. So for me, on the face of it, it's a no-brainer. Having my own independent counsel makes sense in principle, especially when we talk about checks and balances, and that's the first paragraph in here. And my observation about that is reflecting on what we did earlier this year at the end of last year, where we changed the charter to remove the authority of the county executive and gave us more authority over the county attorney. So we spoke about this earlier. I don't know if I quite understand it, but I think in order to do this, we would have to do it in conjunction with rescinding that local law that we passed, giving us the authority to remove the county executive, the county attorney.
Yeah.
You know, as it stands now, the legislature will have minority counsel, majority counsel, outside counsel, and authority over the county attorney. That's a lot of counsel. I'm a Democrat, and I'm saying today, like, sometimes over-legislating can harm us, legislating too much. And I wonder if that might be what could happen here. I don't want to over-legislate this. I have been trying to find what other counties are doing, reading the Dutchess County charter. I found the Albany County charter, not to get into too much detail in it, but the majority and minority, the legislature appoints a majority and minority counsel. That's in their charter, as it may deem appropriate. This is the words, and Heather's probably going to look at this and help us with this. It goes on to say, any majority and minority counselor which may be appointed shall be appointed in the manner provided for in the rules of the county legislature. So
Should we open up our manual?
those rules are in their manual.
Yeah.
So these rules might be as simply put in our manual, so we're not maybe over-legislating.
Well, I hate amending our manual, you know that.
I'd like to amend our whole charter, because I think it really, I know we just did it, but I think it really needs some help.
Give it the spring.
So, the budget already includes funding for minority council and majority council. We're covered for a bit there. It's in the budget this year if the budget passes. I'm really tired, and I'm not, obviously, because I can't put a sentence together. I'm not ready to do this yet. And
No, of course not.
I really do appreciate these discussions. It's okay to do ahead of time, and I love deliberation, and I want to continue it. But I do wonder if this might be over-legislating at this point, and I do think it needs to be in conjunction with what we did last year, whatever it was with the county attorney.
Fair points on that, and I'll defer to counsel on this point. The problem with combining them is Section 10 of the Municipal Home Rule Law. We can only adopt a local law that deals with one subject. It's kind of to prevent...
Combining them, but we'll have to change it. We'll have to change
Oh,
it.
I'll be very honest with you. I was, and we talked about this earlier, and I'm happy to put it on the record now, and having lived down the hall as deputy county executive for 4 years, if I was on this legislature in 2024, I most likely would not have voted, and some of my colleagues are going to take issue with this, and I'm sorry, but would most likely not have voted to have the legislature have sole, after January 1st, 2027, to have removal. And that definitely has to be revisited perhaps, but I don't think we can combine it in this one because of that requirement of the Municipal Home Rule Law that a local law has to deal with one subject. Okay, is it lawyers or is it the legislative council and the county attorney? That's number one. And what was your other point about? No, you had a lot of good points there. Anyway, that's my thoughts on that. And somebody who hasn't spoken yet, first Amy and then Aaron.
I've done a lot of research on this. I've looked at least 20 different charter-based counties about their legislative council, and most of them have separate legislative council. Especially Rockland County, they have, it says, in fact, it even states exactly what this has is to respect the two branches of government, it's essential that each branch of government has the opportunity to hire their own counsels according to the legislature has to have its own representation. I think it's important. I've also spoken to NISAC, spoken to the charter guru up there, and he went through it with me as well, and felt that it was a good thing for Putnam County to have it written out in our code and our yeah. So I'm all for it. The one thing I'm concerned about is how we break out the duties of the minority and the majority council. I mean, if the minority council, and I've spoken with Nancy about this before, I mean, this legislature could flip, you know.
It hasn't.
And
It has.
as a
30 years
Republican,
ago.
I would want representation, and if I was in the minority. But how do you split those duties as far as, like, you know, how do you, like, are they both going to every single committee meeting, or
Well,
or is it going to be just drafting, or that's?
A couple of things. If you take a look at the.
Yeah, right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That was my point. Come out to all these.
What was that? I didn't catch that. What was-
I said I'm not gonna get that for 50 grand.
Yeah, for 50
No,
grand.
no,
you're
you
not
won't.
gonna
That's
get
why
it.
I put it down as requested.
Yeah.
And
If there was an issue maybe
Yeah.
that's important, and you know what, I really need you to come that night, because this is a hot button thing for me, and we really have to come
I think
in.
it's to our discretion, like even the
Right.
full legislative meetings, to me, that's like,
okay.
I'm sorry.
No, please,
If we can
please.
talk
No,
openly.
no, go ahead.
Like
Let's
even the
do it.
full legislative meetings, by that point, you know, as someone said to me and yelled at me once, this is just a voting meeting, Nancy. We don't talk about anything here. So we're not really deliberating much at a full ledge meeting, so, yeah.
No, we could tinker with that as well.
Parliamentary, the
Yeah.
parliamentary aspect of it is
Parliamentarian.
important at a full.
I have my book. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Nobody's going to mess with Nancy and Robert's rules. 2 points. For full disclosure, a lot of the findings and determinations I put in the first part of this were lifted right out of the code of of Rockland County.
Rockland.
Because they did have some good language there, so just to,
Right.
don't want plagiarism abounding, so I'll cite it. A lot of that did come from that. With respect to the duties, I tried to, and I think I was, and I'm going to get right to you, you're next, I
You're
apologize. The 8 duties there really don't delineate between each council. Each council would have the same role as the other. You know, and again, is to back up with Nancy, and then the point that Greg brought up, maybe it should be as requested to attend all full legislative meetings and committee meetings.
Or if the majority council goes to all the full, and then, you know, I'm going on vacation next month, you know.
Yeah. I want-
Can you pitch
yeah.
it for me, you know?
Yeah.
They can.
Sure. Aaron?
I think this needs, I think it's in concept, you know, it's wonderful. I know that I know that Nancy has been asking about this since I used to sit over there and video record. I actually remember yelling it one time when you guys sat back in the corner back there, and there's a little box over here.
don't remember that.
Yeah, so
Kidding, yeah.
but I will say that, you know, there needs to be equal opportunity here if we're going to do this. And Rockland has many more legislators than we do, double and then some. Same with Orange, Dutchess, they have in the 20s. And if we're talking about bringing them to every legislative meeting, you have to make it equal for both. So then you'd have to give them both an equal salary and an equal amount to spend, because if you only give, just because there's one member, like I'm just going off of now, 1 versus 8, how can you tell them that they only get $50,000, but we get $90,000, and we can, just because there's more members, but they still have to come to every meeting? You know what I mean? We use Heather now basically as a parliamentarian a lot of times. We will generally sometimes ask her questions, but a lot of times it's, Heather, can you then research the issue and get back to us? So I think with this, you know, number one, there was a point made about checks and balances. We really do need to, that charter change, I think you brought in to us about, wasn't that that was your legislation?
About the term limits, yes.
About the term limits, that was your legislation.
Yeah.
I don't even believe that it's actually lawful right now, the way it is, and I would question that.
Oliver Wendell Crowley, go ahead.
No, I've done some research on it, so I don't believe that it's actually lawful, but we won't get into that right now. And I would like to see that looked over again, because I think the balance of power, essentially, and I work for the legislature, so I you know, having outside counsel, as it was pointed out, outside counsel to two counsels for majority, minority plus the county attorney. Then down the hall, who represents the county executive? Where is the balance of power there? So I think we need to really consider what we're doing here, and I don't know if Heather wants to weigh in on that. Is that gonna,
Before we get to Heather, I just want to
is there a-
exhaust the legislative talk and then.
okay.
Yeah, I just want to let, and then, because
then-
we're throwing a lot at you and it's unfair, I just want to give her some a breather.
This isn't,
Erin still has.
And then,
Sorry.
like, with the other part, does that require a referendum? Is there any referendums that's required for any of
If you
this?
take a look at the last paragraph there, it goes into the referendum
Yeah.
requirements.
So,
Yeah.
right, and that's also something that needs to be brought to the forefront and talked about, so.
Right, that's part of it, yeah.
Yeah, so, I think that there's substance here, but we need to build on it and really be equitable and fair and understand the consequences of decisions that are made. We are very much covered legally, and we are doing that at the cost of the taxpayers. And I don't want to keep taking from the taxpayers to have 16 different lawyers. I think it's absolutely insane.
Nobody's talking about 16, but anyway, we'll go to.
Well,
Ray.
outside counsel line, what? I'm sorry?
We're not.
listen, to me, the key part of this, and this is what we experienced, has to do with confidentiality. When we lost the dedicated legislative counsel, and Conrad, and if you're listening out there, thank you for everything. Good man, good attorney. It was asked point blank, if we ask you something, then he said, I cannot keep that private, I have to take you to the county attorney.
Let's
Now-
be careful about names and conversations and things like that. I don't want to be on TV
Noted,
here.
noted. The point is, we were told that we lost confidentiality. And that, to me, that's critical. So if the legislature wants to research something and look into something, other branches of government do not need to know that, and they should not need to know that. And for the same token, opposite political parties need to have confidentiality. So for me, the idea of having a minority counsel, I could see where the minority counsel will be utilized when confidentiality has to be maintained. On ministerial and mundane things, it's not going to matter which counsel is going to be used, and I can almost see them working in some sort of tandem. Hey, you take Tuesday's meeting, I'll take Thursday's meeting, and people can be reasonable. But to me, just to have the confidentiality and the separation of different branches of government, that in and of itself makes this 100% necessary.
Thanks. Bill?
Thank you. Balance of power. If an attorney, legislative counsel on a minority and a majority have a 3-year contract and the balance of power changes 2 years into the contract, we need to put something in this that the majority and the minority has the opportunity to change, because the Republican might not want the Democrat attorney, and the Democrat might not want the Republican attorney. So we need to add that into this situation also. Majority and minority. I know we're talking vaguely, but that's a very vague term. Well, are we talking about political parties, or are we talking about,
Well, hang on. Well,
there's more women here than men, so,
if I could, was that a rhetorical question? Because I could give you an answer.
give me an answer, yeah.
Okay, hey, guys, yeah, we're the minority now, the men are.
Sorry.
The men are the minority
Yeah, so
on the
how do we
legislature.
define majority
Well,
and?
the good thing is, to answer Bill's question directly,
Attorney, too.
what's that?
Sorry, nothing.
Okay. This does strictly define what a majority council is, and that council is that council chosen by the members of the county legislature enrolled in the political party representing the largest number of county legislators. So it's very clear what the majority council is. It says, shall appoint a majority council.
Yeah,
So-
but now with the terminology affirmative, so if there's 3 Republicans and 2 Democrats, and they take the control, and then,
Okay.
are they the majority, or are they?
No, I think take a look at it again, because let me just read the whole thing, and I'll read it slow, because it does address your point very, very clearly. It says, "The members of the county legislature," and there's parallel language for the minority council as well. "The members of the county legislature enrolled in a political party representing the largest number of county legislators shall," and every 3 years, we'll get back to that, "appoint a counsel to the majority." So that answers the first part of your question. What is a majority counsel? It's those appointed by the members of the largest political party. So it's not talking about men versus women. It's not talking about, left-handed versus right-handed legislators. It's talking about those legislators who are in the majority, in the party that has the largest, but the party that has the largest amount of legislators, that's the majority council. That answers the first part of your question. Your next part of the question is, well, who gets to vote that? That's answered in the final paragraph. "Such majority council shall be chosen by the affirmative vote," which means positive vote, or, majority vote. The reason I used affirmative is because I didn't want to use the word majority 3 times in one sentence. So it says, "Such council of the majority shall be chosen by the affirmative vote of the majority of such majority members." So there, Bill, to relieve you of your concern of your last point, and I'm only going to use Democrat and Republican now because that's the way it is, Nancy wouldn't be able to appoint the majority council because she's not in the party that has the largest number of legislators. So I think that addresses, does that address your question? And of course, there's parallel language for
It does, but I think it should be more defined.
Okay, well,
in
I'm open to
some
that.
ways.
I think we all are. Okay, go ahead, and
One
then,
little one.
okay.
This has happened most recently in Patterson, we've seen it.
Okay.
Where somebody lost a primary, ran as a conservative, and won. What do you do when you have 3 parties? I mean, we have 4
Yep.
parties in Putnam County that are on 4, they have 4 lines, right? Conservative, working
Right.
families, Republican, Democrat.
that's
What
the
do
line
you
in
do
here.
if somebody that is a working families member got in and won, or a conservative got in and won? How do you then address that to make sure they fit into this language as well? Or would you amend if that were to happen?
You're not suggesting additional lawyers, I hope not.
I'm not, but I'm just
Okay.
suggesting.
Asking you, what do you do?
I'm asking you this. because
Got
you're
some
a
friends?
Yes.
I'm just saying, like
Yeah.
that could, it's not been unknown to happen, and
Yep.
crazier things have happened in this world. So I just want to make sure it's fair and equitable.
Yep. No, I hear you.
And inclusive of all parties.
You make good points, and I would argue, at this point, let's not make the perfect the enemy of the good.
I'm just
Yep.
asking.
No, because there's a point, I think it's Orange County has a conservative member.
And so does Westchester.
Westchester, too.
There's 2 minorities.
They
Yeah.
have- And they have 1 Republican, 1 conservative, and the rest are Democrats. So my concern here is to then, if that happened, how would this fit? Would that have to be amended on the fly for that person during budget season, right? That's my, just a
Yeah,
question.
no,
Because it
that's a practical hypothetical. I don't have an answer, and I don't think we need one at this moment. Or at least I don't think, I don't need one, I'm not going to speak for you. Before, Heather, we're throwing a lot at you. I know, but, go ahead, we're throwing a lot at you, go ahead.
So, all right, I'm going to try to go through everything.
Okay.
So first thing is.
You sure you want to give us legal advice?
I don't want to give legal advice.
Okay.
This is not legal advice on
Okay.
anything to do. It's just affirmative comment on some of the comments that were
Okay.
made that we can then discuss at other things. First, I just want to caution, just generally, that you cannot take just verbatim look at the structure of other counties.
Right.
Because every other charter county has a different charter.
Right.
And there's a different balance of power. And so with that different balance of power comes different needs, because there are different conflicts that arise or that don't arise. And, so I just want to caution that you have to make sure you're comparing apples to apples and not apples to oranges and trying to shoehorn them together.
This is unique to Putnam, that's a great point.
Exactly. So
Right.
ours is unique to Putnam, and our needs are different than Rockland's, are different than Orange, are different, and there are our charters and our structure of government is different in
right.
each of those. So, we know, at least so far, that charters are different,
Yep.
but even charter counties are different.
Sure.
So they're not necessarily always comparable. They can be informative, and they can help inform us, but we have to really look is like, are those really comparable? One of the things is size, as, you know, and Legislator Crowley pointed out. That's one comment. The other thing that was discussed was in terms of confidentiality, and just, you know, as former legislative counsel is not present, I just would like to comment on that and say that the county attorney's office represents the legislature. In fact, supremely represents the legislature. If there is a conflict between the legislature and the county executive, we represent the legislature first and foremost. So anything that is shared with legislative counsel with your other attorney would simply be like, oh, in a law firm, one associate sharing it with a senior associate or sharing it with whatever. We all represent your interests. So I just want to explain that doesn't vitiate confidentiality. In fact, we are just as duty bound, you know, as any other member of the county attorney's office is duty bound to maintain confidentiality. And, you know, in the event that a conflict were to arise, we would also be duty bound to let you know that we believe a conflict has arisen and for whatever reason, and we would let you know that outside counsel would need to be appointed or something like that. That also raises the issue of something else to consider as we're discussing the interests of different parties and different things like that, is that in the event that, as you initially suggested, and we don't know what the ultimate draft is going to look like, but in the event that this council is not going to participate in litigation and is only going to be advising in the drafting and the answering questions and things like that, then is there a conflict between the parties? Is there something that would necessitate these separate roles? And is there needs that would be separate? Because I think that part of the reason that this arose was because there was this idea, and I don't know if it's true or not, I'm not disparaging anyone, but there was an idea that the majority's interests were served and, you know, Nancy, not to call you out, but the minority's interests were not. However, if the function, as you delineated, is being served properly, then any legislature should be able to call on it. And I mean, and I can't speak for myself, and you all may have whatever feelings about me, but I believe I've made myself available equally to everyone. And I believe that anything that anyone has asked me to look into, I've looked into. And I would just suggest that it may be possible that the interests of all legislatures, as long as litigation isn't involved, because if litigation were involved, there would be a conflict. But as long as litigation isn't involved, then really the role for this number of people might possibly be served by one person. And there might not be the need for these dual roles if the person's being fair and equitable, and I can't speak to what some hypothetical person did or didn't do. And just because you are not the size legislature as, you know, some of these larger scale ones, maybe consider whether or not, and you can discuss this, you know, but whether or not it's needed to have all of those additional roles. The other thing I wanted to bring up, this is my last point, is that we spent a considerable amount of time in budget discussing the catapult survey that was done in order to create equity between positions. And, you know, if someone came in perhaps low as an intern, I think somebody did in some role, and they wanted to bump them up because now with this many years of experience, they really should have advanced more. I don't know, and maybe it did go into where you got the numbers from, but that might be something else you want to consider in terms of the other, because and again, I'm not sure if this is right, this is a 25-hour position, non-benefits, right, part-time position?
Yes, it's part-time.
The term of art is less than full-time.
No, it was non-benefit. It was clearly in the budget book is PT, part-time.
I am very well briefed on this.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. But yeah, so my question is that you might want to look at other attorney roles throughout the county to understand whether, according to the catapult survey, these are commensurate amounts. You know, and because you wouldn't want to be in a position, and this is just optic-wise for the legislature, of having it appear that the legislature is giving favoritism to their attorney over other attorney roles of, you know, similar stature.
But I thought the county attorney's office is our attorney.
Well,
I'm
you
playing with it.
understand.
I do. I completely understand. I don't disagree with it. I don't want to cut you off.
No, you didn't
Okay,
cut me off at all.
great.
That was, I think that's all I had to say. That's all that's stated.
Okay.
Something else might have leaked out, but.
Amy, then.
Just about the salaries, so when we discussed this, of course, when Nancy and I were talking about this, is way before the catapult study, and we really didn't know how to break it down. And I'm sure as we go along, it'll become more equitable and, we'll understand it more. But at this, we just didn't know, we just had to put something out there. But it's certainly worth discussing and working out in the budget.
I'm just going to be honest here, because I am like that.
We'll all hang out.
And, I think we've come a long way as a legislature, and, this type of deliberation is really helpful, and understanding a lot from what Heather said, is it necessary? We're such a small legislature. This person, these people, these counselors are going to serve as parliamentarians, help us follow rules, maybe help us draft local laws or resolutions, which, hey, I've been doing pretty good for 7 years on my own with it. And it was a really big problem previously. Our county, our legislative attorney, was in caucus,
Okay.
behind closed doors, before every meeting. Allowable, yes, by law, but it made me really uncomfortable.
Bothered you?
It bothered me. There were speculations about politics and what was being said, and that's what I was up against back then. I don't feel that I'm up against that right now. Again, I'm shooting myself in the foot. This is something that's being offered to me, and I appreciate it. It's in the budget now. It's $50,000, whether we spend it or not. I'd rather see it go to sending our clerks to conferences and training and helping them learn more, and making the resources in the legislative office, more equitable for all of us and easier for the clerks to use. I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's different, and it was everything that I said. Not to disparage anybody, but it was clear to me there was a lot working against me here those years, and I fought back too. I'll take responsibility for that. But it is a different time. Can that change instantly? Come January, it could. I'm hopeful that it doesn't. But so that's all I have to say.
Greg, then Amy.
Couple quick things, and based on what you just said, and I'm not going to be here. Okay, but based on what you just said, I think that's why it's very important, because every member of the legislature needs to be comfortable, confident, and know that you're going to be treated with utmost respect, care, and get the best advice, and I'm going to say it again, remain confidential. The other side of this is with these other parties. Let's just look at our Board of Elections. New York State law mandates that the two majority parties each have an election commissioner. So if we have to modify this so that it is a Democrat and a Republican, I'm okay with that. Okay? The whole point in my mind is to make us more efficient. We work for the people, the taxpayers of Putnam County. And the more time that can be saved, and to me, what I have missed is research capabilities. Okay, and I don't want to bother Heather all the time. She's been wonderful. Every time I've ever asked, she's been there, extremely responsive. But having someone in the office to do research while you're sitting next to them can be a very, very valuable tool and can come up with, positive things for everybody. So, we're just discussing it, and the other thing which Bill brought up, maybe a 3-year term is not the way of doing this. Maybe we need to put language in here that if there is a shift in the majority, then you get to immediately, on January 1, annual appointment. So I'm saying, because you got to protect the future. That was a really good point, Bill. But again, I think the overall framework, I'd like to say that we're 85% here, and when Heather has time to digest this and give us some input, I think we can come up with a document that's going to benefit the people of Putnam County, because that's what this is all about.
Amy, then Tony, and then...
So I mean, both of your points are well taken, and especially what Nancy was saying about, you know, we are legally allowed to caucus, and we are legally allowed to have our counsel in with us. As chair, this year, I decided not to have a caucus, and, you know, it seems okay. But, you know, I don't know, whoever's going to be chair next, 10 years down the road, that might change, and you might have exactly what you were facing. And I think that's how we learn, and that's how we change things. So, you know, 7 years down the road, when we have, you know, one lone Democrat or whatever, and then the Democrats are caucusing in the other room with the legislative council, I can imagine how that would make you feel. And I remember a lot of issues that we talked about that were, you know, you were alone on the one side. I remember complimenting you and how strong I felt you were as the lone Democrat in the room. That's not always going to be the case. And I think as far as council is concerned, if it were me, I would want that representation. You know, I would want that, that legal counsel. And, oh shoot, what was the other point I was going to make? Something that you talked about, Greg?
The two major parties, that the Board of Elections has a Democrat and a Republican.
Anyway, that's really the point I wanted to make is it's not for us right now. It's looking in the future, looking at the makeup. What we've been through and what we have learned is important to future legislatures. And I think it's very important for a legislature to have their own counsel. I mean, I've learned that being on the legislature for, 3 terms now. Having 1 year without our own appointed attorney it's a whole different ballgame. And while I appreciate what Heather and our previous counsel, they've been fabulous, but it's different, especially going through the Ag Board issues and having our Putnam County Attorney's Office involved in litigation with the Ag Board, and then us on the legislature needing to have legislation drafted for the Ag Board. It seems like might be kind of blurry lines, you know, somehow conflicted. Maybe not, maybe so, but it can be viewed that way. So I think it needs to be separate from the county attorney's office. And that's what I've learned from NISAC, that's what I've learned from reading all these other charters, and what I've learned from my own personal experience as a legislator for 8 years.
Going to go to Tony, then Bill, and then we haven't heard from Laura. Interested in your thoughts, if you want to give but we'll go to Tony.
Thank you. Thank you. I agree with everything that Amy just said. Legislative sage. Yes. I believe that this is protection of the legislative body to do this. And to Legislator Crowley's point, when she's saying we're going to have 4 different attorneys, as we all know, many Republicans vote on the conservative vote Republican. So if a conservative got on, they would be very comfortable with the attorney that was representing the Republican. And the same with working families. They're always endorsed by the Democratic Party, correct?
Sometimes.
Okay, most of the time, they would be more, they would be more comfortable with the Democratic attorney that's representing the Democratic Party. So we don't need 4 different attorneys.
Bill, then.
Legislative Elmer mentioned the Board of Elections. The pay structure for the Board of Elections is the same.
Yes.
So for the Republican and for the Democrat. If we're going to use them as an analogy, then we should pay the same amount.
Let's see if he's done yet.
I'm sorry, if I may.
Whether you have a lot more Republicans over Democrats or vice versa, they make the same money.
And if I may,
Okay.
and to answer that question, in deference to Legislator Montgomery didn't want to waste taxpayer money, and she felt at the time of the discussion that that's what was needed. But I agree with you, Bill. If we need to increase that line so it's equal, I have no issues doing that. I want this to be a functioning body, and the other part of this is, as I think we've all learned, the law is not black and white. It is gray. And I could see that it would be very beneficial when we're looking at a particular situation to have a Democrat attorney's point of view and a Republican attorney's point of view, and I think that, particularly the way we're conducting ourselves, that type of discourse can be really beneficial and can come to a better solution.
Bill, did you have anything else?
I'm fine.
Laura, any thoughts? No, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'd be...
No, that's fine. First year here, so it's all new and I'm learning. And being my first year here and not having outside counsel, I didn't have a problem or see any issues with our current in-house attorneys, who I felt served us well. With the discrepancy in the salary for the two different attorney outside counsel, I do see a discrepancy. I don't see why one should be paid less because they're only supporting one person. But that's basically my thoughts.
Great. On that point, we still have not passed the 2026 budget, and we do have a public hearing Monday. And then Wednesday and possibly Thursday, we will, as a full legislature, vote on the budget. And we're able to make any amendments at that point, and that might be well worth considering. Tony?
We can,
The difference in pay, equalizing.
well, it equals 140,000, so we just split it, 70 each. Right?
That's a good compromise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aaron?
I think that it comes down to also the catapult searches. I think Heather made a good point with that. Look at the attorney positions in the county and make sure that they're fair and equitable.
Well, this won't be
And
full-time.
I have,
Go
on the
ahead.
floor. So make sure it's fair and equitable so that we're not disenfranchising anybody. I think again, everybody has brought out great points. Everybody has served on this legislature in different capacities and longer and shorter. And I think it's a good discussion to have, and there's a lot more to be had. And, it's great that it's been brought up, and I like the conversation, that it's flowing nicely and everybody's being heard kindly and calmly. And I look forward to more discussion on this. And I also want to be fiscally responsible and have less government. I don't think more government is something that I walked into this position for. And I'm just going to say that.
Great. On that point, more discussion. I think we should have more discussion about it. This is not on for, it's not going to be passed to moving tonight. What I'm planning on doing with respect to engendering more of that conversation and working with the county attorney's office, obviously, we have a Rules Committee meeting in November. What I'd like to do is have at least one extra special Rules Committee in November in tandem with some other meeting where we'll be here. I don't want to drag us out in what might be a snowy night when that's the only meeting.
That's word.
Well, I know, I shouldn't have said the S word. It's a four-letter word. So I anticipate at least one extra Rules Committee meeting. And again, I'm still torn whether this should be a local law for the charter or to mimic, and as Heather was saying, all charters are different. Some counties do it as part of their administrative code. Maybe we do both, belts and suspenders, I don't know. Again, things to be discussed, TBD. But having said all of that, I'd like to see us come to some resolution, whether it's an up or down vote, whether it passes or fails in the form of a charter change or in the form of a revision to our code. I'd like to see something done by January 1st, because that's when we will have those positions that can be filled. And if we were to look at some other charters, since there's a gaping hole in the way we appoint this new position, it could be left to, as some counties do, the chairman appoints the legislative council. Whoever the chairman's going to be next year, I don't think that's equitable. I don't think it's equitable for the minority member at all. So that's my point in trying to get this done this year in one form or another, whether it's charter change, whether it's, and of course the administration is going to weigh in. I hope they do. Outside of either a veto or an approval, I'd encourage. Did we send this down to? Did I copy the county exec on this?
No, I don't believe
if we could, I know he knows about it, we spoke about it, but send him and he can read it online, but as a courtesy, just send him this is the only draft that's been out there. There's been no changes, so everybody will have the same thing. Greg, and then I think we didn't finish by 7, my guess, but
Yeah,
that's my fault, though. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Greg.
real quick. I would just encourage everybody to move relatively quickly on this, because once it's decided, it's going to take a while to find the proper persons. So just, not saying rush, but let's not put it on the back burner.
And that's why I think we should have more than just one Rules Committee meeting.
Of course.
I do want this to be discussed vigorously and politely. Anyone else on this matter at all? No? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, guys.
Good night.
Good
Thank
discussion.
you.
Thank you.